Hello, guys. Lovely to see you already here for another lesson. I'm so happy to see you. I can't tell you how happy I am. Just going to have a quick check. Oh, it says waiting. Still waiting for me? What's happened then? Ah, here we go. Hello. Right. Okay. Lovely. Hello, everyone. Let me just check who's here just for a minute. So I've been chatting with JB Liam, who's going to Canada. Lovely to see you here again, JB. I remember you from yesterday. Katya's here. Lovely to see you, Katya. Saurabh, as always. Have you missed one even, Saurabh? I don't think you have. Hope there isn't any shortage of food. Well, actually, in my kitchen there is. I don't know when I last had a piece of fruit. Hi, Gaurav. Nice to see you. Intisha's here as well. And Alexander's here. Oh, lovely. Everybody's here. Hi, Augustino. Hi, Gaurav. I'm all right, thanks. Hi, Hassan. Prakash, Dida, hello. Deepika is here. Hello, Aizida is here, and Andy is lovely. So happy, really so happy to see your names every time. It's really, really exciting for me. Thank you very, very much. Okay, so what we're going to do today is, before we start, I just want to quickly run really quickly through the slides. Hi, Havinder, just in case anybody's missed yesterday, and just to give us all a quick review. So JB Liam, you said that you're finding these lessons useful just as review of those little bits of grammar that we all forget and make mistakes with. And remember, it's your English that you have to get right. Forget about the test. It's the English that has to be good. But what we're going to do today is more complex uses of to, and focusing on writing, how you can use to and not enough and plenty and hardly and all of those, how you can apply them then when you need to write about them in IELTS or speak about them. So hi, Beatrice. Hi, Rika. Hello, everybody. And Havinder's here, and Andy. Oh, that's great to know, Andy. It really makes me so happy. Thank you. Hi, Prachi. Okay, so if you remember from yesterday, and maybe what I'd like you to do, you don't have to type at this stage, but just quickly remind yourself about what we did yesterday. So we talked about which one was negative, and there's only two of these are negative, and they are the top and the bottom one. So too much and not enough are negative. Why is it much? Uncountable. Therefore, we need a little. So let's look at the second one, changing it to many, of course, too many, and then a few. So just test yourself. If you're talking about free time or water, exercise, there's no S. So the question, how much? If there is S, how many? And then we talked about verbs. What do you do? Too much, not enough. All of those, don't worry. And we talked your examples yesterday, and then we tried to make them into longer sentences. For example, I'm tired, I can't study, I'm too tired to study. So remember the to and the too tired to study. Or what was the alternative? I'm so tired that I can't study. Okay, so we looked at that as a linking word yesterday, and we looked at mistakes. So can you remember what's wrong with this one? Of course, we can't use it because it's negative. And then what's wrong with this one? Now we've got an adjective, so you don't need much. Simply, it's too crowded. Or, and this is what we're going to look at today, there are too many people. This is what we're focusing on today. Okay, so I asked you in the community tab to choose one of these, which is true for the place where you live. So while I'm just saying hi, could you please choose one of those And if you want to say something else, that's fine about where you live, but it has to be negative. Okay, so Dinara is here. Hello. And Kyla's here as well. And Darmic, did I miss you? Great. Okay, so just quickly put one of those in the comments about where you live. Yeah, so I guess for me, where I live at the moment, there aren't enough jobs. That's the problem. And we're going to talk about living in the city versus living in the country. So Kavita saying 1 and 3. So Kavita, I guess you live in a quiet place. There isn't enough to do, but there's too much pollution. Havinda, there aren't enough jobs. I think at the moment that's going to be a huge problem everywhere, isn't it? Lots of people saying that, Prachi. Maybe you could be more specific. Tell me what kind of jobs or why you think that. Prakash, hi Prakash. 4, there aren't enough jobs. Oh, too much pollution, sorry, is 3. Yes. Aizada, yes. It's interesting. Has it changed since the lockdown? Lots of people are saying they've noticed the big difference in the quality of the air since the lockdown. Has it changed for you? So, Agustina, there's too much pollution, not enough jobs. Katya, have a quick check of the grammar. There is or there are. Marina, too much pollution. Janina, pollution. Kyla, not enough jobs. And Havinda, yeah, Havinda, the difference between living in a rural location and an urban location, the expression in English is quite strange. You said, I live in country. Remember, country has 2 meanings. It could be your country, like I live in England. That's my country. But if you live in a rural area, what do you say? I'm going to type it. And there are 2 options. Hello, Fariasbek. Okay, so I would say I live in the country, or the countryside. I live in the country or the countryside. Hi, Ant. Okay, and JB Liam saying, I live in suburb. Again, JB Liam, you need something there. Everybody, can you think about it? What can we do with JB Liam's? I live in with suburb. I'm going to post it. So there we go. I live in the suburbs. It's plural and you need the. So the is quite important. Katya, there are, well done. Okay, Prakash, I think you mean country. So I live in the country or I live in the countryside. Strange expressions, I think. It's rustic, it's remote, those are adjectives, Saurabh, good. But maybe in the comment you can tell me, just type, I live in the country or I live in the city. And that just means generally the city. So urban, these are good IELTS words, important ones. I'll put urban or rural locations. So those are I live in the city, I live in an urban area, or I live in a rural area. No worries. Okay, so think about that for yourself, because that's quite good when you're speaking in part 1. If you can throw in those words, I live in an urban area, it's good. So Izada, you haven't noticed, it hasn't changed much for you? No, I can't say I've noticed it either, really. Okay, lovely. So when we looked at all of these sentences, we're always thinking about, is it singular or plural? And countable or uncountable? Alive? I live in a town. That's fine. Okay. Gaurav, you need, you always need the article, an urban area. So I'll just post that. Oh, there we go. Kavita says, okay, hang on. In an urban area. Kavita, just be careful with your tense. Remember we talked about, is it temporary for a short time, or is it always true? So you need to decide, Kavita, I live or I'm living, and you can post if you want. Harvinder is asking, what does suburb mean? So maybe JB Liam, you could explain what does suburb mean. I'll come back to you. Deepak, there is substantial reduction in air pollution in cities as a result of lockdown. Lovely sentence. Marina, I live in an urban area. It's quite difficult to pronounce, isn't it? In an urban area. Yeah. Now, Deepika, good, but you don't need an. So then it would be, I live in a rural area, isn't it? A rural area like that. I live in a rural area, or I live in an urban area. Like Prachis live in an urban area. Kavita's right, good. And Gaurab, yeah, the articles, always important, good. So Saurabh saying, yeah, suburb. Okay, you've put it singular. Singular is okay. So, for example, my town is a suburb of London. It's a small place outside London. But if you just say, I live in, so JB Liam saying outside downtown, yeah. So I live in, remember articles then? Suburbs. I live in the suburbs. If it's general, I live in the suburbs, or I live in a suburb of London. Yeah, great. Okay, so we're focusing on this is and are, but we're also focusing today on there is and there are, and we're going to look at how important that is in a minute. Let's have a look. Okay, so very often in task 2 in the writing, or even in the speaking test, you have to discuss the good things and the bad things, the advantages and the disadvantages of city life, living in a busy, crowded city compared to living in a quiet, remote, rural location. So I'm going to ask you what you think some of those positives and negatives are. So, for example, we could simply say it's overcrowded. But what I'd like you to do is to think of a sentence beginning with there. There can give you more complex sentences, more academic sounding, and therefore higher level. So I'll give you one example, or think about it and type. It's overcrowded. Oh, thanks, Harvinder. It's overcrowded. There are too many people. So that would get you points because it's a good vocabulary item, but this would give you points because it's a good complex grammar item. So it's always with IELTS, you've got to use a mixture of both and show that you've got that flexibility. So get ready for the second one. It's polluted. That's the adjective. So we said it's overcrowded, it's polluted. Can you now give me transform the sentence using there? J. William, good question, actually. That's a good question about pros and cons. It's less formal, so it's excellent for speaking, very natural. There are lots of pros and cons. For writing, it's not the best because there are other words like benefits, drawbacks. But if you've already said them, then it's better to use a different word, and pros and cons then is perfect. If you want to find synonyms, it's fine. Okay, so Eileen's saying it's polluted. Havinder saying there are so many people. Yes. Havinder, remember that's not negative necessarily. I mean, if you had a party, it was great, there were so many people, then it's great, isn't it? So I'm trying to encourage you to be negative so that you can show judgment. Okay, so there is a more engaging social life. Oh, lovely. You're giving me pros and cons. This is great. Now, Prachi, just be careful. There is and are. There is more changes. There are more changes. Just have a quick check. Okay, Marina, there is bustling traffic. Yes. Hustle and bustle, isn't that a fabulous word? I love it. It's very stressful. Yes, alive. There's too much. Izida. Now then, good. Have a look at Izada's a moment. Almost perfect, Izada. What can we take out? There's a small thing that we can take out. Maybe if I compare Agostino, which is correct, Agostino, there's a lot of pollution. Okay, fine, because pollution is negative. So it's fine to say there's a lot of pollution. So Izada, what do you think? What do we need to take out? Yeah, don't need Izada because there's too much pollution. Agostina, that's good. There's a lot of pollution. Too much pollution there, Kavita. Saurabh, just watch your singular plural. Compare with the answer. Poor quality index would be fantastic vocabulary. Eileen, there is much pollution. Now, Eileen, I would be careful with that. I'm just going to write that one. Where's my pen? There is much pollution because it's not exactly that in the positive. You can say there's too much pollution or there's a lot of pollution, but not there is much pollution. Alexander, watch your there are and there is. Kyla, watch your there are and there is. So you've got to decide, is it there are, plural, or there is, singular? Okay, so Andy's got it. There's too much pollution. Marina's got it. There's too much pollution. Deepika, look again. This is interesting, actually. So hopefully you're seeing the common mistake there is and there are. Hi, Pachu. Hello, Shivam. What to do here, Gurpal? Good question. Hang on, Gurpal. Article Izada, yes. Too much pollution. And Prachi, look again. So, Gurpal, what we're doing is changing a simple it is sentence to a there are sentence. And we're changing a negative overcrowded to a negative too many. And we're just being really careful about the singular for uncountable and the plural for countable. So if you look at Prachi's, for example, and then compare with the answer that I've got on the slide, you can see where it's easy to make these kind of small mistakes. So Prachi, I'm guessing you can see and you can self-correct, which is the best way to correct. So while you're doing that, I'm going to give you one more. So simple adjective, it's congested. And you've got two ways of, you could say there is or there are. So I'll wait for you to fix that. Pacha, there's too much junk food. That's fine, that's perfect. Gurpal, okay. How can we, Prachi, well, I'm so glad you asked that question. Prachi, can anybody help you? Let me just wait a minute. Gurpal, that's okay. There is a great deal. Cost of living is too high. That's good as well. Deepak, there is a higher risk of crimes due to unemployment. That's good. Right, Intisha. This is what I'm looking for, but you put more, which is a comparison. What are you comparing it with? More pollution than a country town? That's okay, but you need to say there's more than. Kavita. Kavita. Now, congested is the adjective. We now need the noun. You want to show the examiner that flexibility. So have a look at Gurpal and Saurabh, and we get the answer. That's it. Okay, you said congestion, I said traffic. Same thing. Gurpal also, Beatrice. Hi, Beatrice. There's too much traffic, or there are too many cars. I put vehicles a little bit more formal for task 2. And Gurpal, you put that as well. Aizada, yes, just put too much if you want to be negative. Much doesn't exist as a positive. You have to say there is a lot of traffic. So too much is negative. Too much, Deepak. Too much, JB Liam. Marina's good. Katya, right. So this is the question about when do we use there is and when do we use there are. And I think it was Prachi. I hope, Prachi, you can see this clearly here. Traffic, uncountable. Cars, vehicles, trucks, anything with S on the end is countable. We count them, so we need are, it's plural. So thank you, Katya. There is Prakash and there is too much congestion. Perfect. Right. Okay, so that's good because I'm going to get more difficult and you're already getting the difficult stuff correct. Katya, disregard this rule in conversations. Katya, could you give me an example? Katya, if you're new here as well, I think, Katya, what you mean, they say they do. They say there's a lot of people, maybe, yes. Yeah, Katya, definitely in speaking, but then I'm thinking more about writing now. So writing, you'd need to be more careful. But yeah, you're right. Hassan, much more cars, only if you're comparing. It's not the same meaning as a negative judgment. Too much traffic, too many cars. Prachi, you're okay, you got it. Lovely. Yes, Deepak, exactly. More now than in 2008. There were more cars than. That's it. Lovely. Good. Thanks, Deepak. Great. Thanks so much for helping each other because it really helps me as well. It helps me keep track. That's marvelous. Thank you. Okay. Right, let's move on. So, just maybe one quick, there's 2 more, I think. It's noisy. Just maybe think about it. You don't have to type. Gurpal, there are too much traffic snarls. If you're using there are. Havinda, there's no place for traveling. Maybe no space. No place, no space. Not enough room, space, yes. Eileen, you don't understand why it's negative. Okay, did you watch yesterday's lesson? If not, just go back and watch it. Yesterday we just went through to is always negative. Give me an example when to is not negative. Okay, so Eileen, I'll come back if you're not sure. Now, Prakash, be very careful. Because Prakash, you're using the same. You're saying it's noisy. It's too much noisy. No. Too much is with a noun. So, for example, Kavita, there's too much noise. Aizada, there's too much noise. There's too much noise pollution. Yes, there's too much noise. And Saurabh, there isn't any silence. Yeah, that's fine. But you'd need to say there isn't any because it's negative. Yeah. Eileen, you're okay. I hope that makes sense. Lovely. So it's noisy. There's too much noise. Yeah. Or noise pollution. Now, what about this one? It's dangerous. Gurpal, yes. Lovely. Yes, it's dangerous. How would you say that? There's too much noise, Havinder. Yes. J. Billiam, be a little bit careful. Be careful. You're mixing them up a little bit now. So it's too crowded, or there are too many people. Gurpal, noise, is it countable or uncountable? So compare what you wrote with what you can see there. And I'm just waiting to see if anybody's got anything for dangerous. I just put this, but Izada, yes, there's too much danger. Yes, fine. Exactly, danger is the noun and it's uncountable. And again, if it's expensive to live in big cities, could you think of a sentence with there is or there are? Again, I had to change it a little bit. There's too much danger. Yeah, having danger can be countable or uncountable. So you could say there are many dangers as well. Yes. It's too dangerous, Marina. Yes. Hi, Hatem. Nice to see you. There's too much danger. Okay, great. There are many accidents, Hassan, you've got for danger. Yeah, lovely. Great. Oh, Olawale, I missed you. There's too much congestion. Perfect, perfect. And Gurpal, you fixed that one, I think. There's too much noise. Okay, Prachi, there is a dangerous situation. Yes, okay. So for expensive, I thought you need some useful phrases for task 2 as well. So more advanced, we could say the cost of living is very high, or slightly different, but if you're talking about accommodation, there's a shortage of or a lack of affordable accommodation. That's just something extra. But yes, Agostino, there are too many expensive shops. Perfect. Agostino, you've used the contraction there. Fine for speaking. Perfect. Just don't use it for writing, and you know that. So Prakash, there is a high living cost. Yes, or the cost of living is high. Now, Kavita, be careful. It's too expensive. It's too expensive. There are, Agostino. Dida, hello Dida. Just be careful between there is and it is. Look at the difference. It is and there is. So Oluwole, it is too dangerous. Perfect. There's too much expense. Deepika, there are too much hazardous. Be careful, Deepika, you're mixing adjectives and nouns. It's too pricey. Nice. Nice vocab then. Agostina, you're fine. Yeah, great. Okay, so let's move on. Now, I just thought, well, you know this now, you can do this. So let's throw something else in. What are the positives of living in a town? Could you fill in those spaces? And again, I'm trying to practice the there are and there is. Plenty, of course, means no shortage, no lack. So I'll wait for you to put anything you want to in the space. So Hassan, there's an ostentatious lifestyle for some people, I guess, if you're rich. Yes, yes, lovely. So Deepika, if you want to check back, change that and come back to me. And anybody waiting, can you just put any word? Don't need to write the whole sentence, but just put any word there. Now then, here we go. There are more job opportunities. Prakash, perfect, plural. Saurabh, amenities, plenty of amenities, yes. Alive, plenty of activities. Job opportunities, plural, Prakash, yes. Alexander, food, countable or uncountable? Havinder, there are plenty of lucrative jobs, nice vocabulary. Plenty of sightseeing spaces, Izada, good. Plenty of job opportunities, public parks, plural, Deepika. Or you could say there is plenty of opportunity. Jobs, good schools, resources, opportunities. Public parks, did I miss you, Deepak? Yes, great, all good. So, all of those are great. Here's another example. Oh, what you said, plenty of jobs, and there's plenty of work. I just put these two because people often say there's plenty of works. It's always uncountable when we're talking about employment. So you were all okay. There was no mistakes there. You're all good. Plenty of street foods. Pachu, where you live, that's nice. Plenty of vacancies, lovely synonym. Plenty of great restaurants. Okay, so we've got loads of ideas now that we can say what's great about living in the city. And at the end, I'm going to ask you, after you've summed up pros and cons, I'm going to ask you to decide which one, after all, is the best. Okay, lovely. So yeah, work, notice no S, so it's uncountable. And all of the things you said, job opportunities, all good. Okay, now when we think about living in the countryside or the country, notice the, living in the country means in a rural location. Could you think about what we said and look at the problems of living in the countryside? You could choose just one of these and write it for me, or you can choose something else by yourself. I don't mind. I'll check. I'll just leave the spaces there for you. So Pachi, for you, there are plenty of jobs in manufacturing sectors. Good. Gurpal, in a city, there's plenty of accommodation. Perfect. You've put it uncountable, no S. Lovely. Yeah, so I'm looking for negatives. And this is quite difficult now. I'm pushing you a bit. I want to see how you do with this one. So in the countryside, for some people, it's too quiet because there's not enough to do. I'm waiting. I don't want to say it yet. Where I live, there are no shops. Well, there's one shop. There's a post office, but of course, there's no cinema. There's no pub. There is a pub, yes, but only a small one. Okay, so here we go. Katya says, there is not much to do. There isn't much to do, Aizada. Lovely. Okay, I'm going to show you, but keep your answers coming, please. I wanted you just to think about it. Okay, so as we can see again, if it's uncountable, there isn't much. There isn't enough. There isn't much work. Pachi, you think there's too much to do in the countryside? Oh, Hassan, you've got the whole thing. Well done. That was fast. Wow. Marina, there's not much to do. There are not enough job opportunities. Lovely. You're all good. So while you're looking at that, can I just ask you to say those to yourself? We've talked about this before. Most of my learners, my lovely students, say they aren't. They say it as 2 syllables. There aren't. No, there aren't. So try to say that yourself very naturally. There aren't any. There aren't any. American, okay, there aren't any. But try not to say aren't, which is one of my students' most common pronunciation things. Alexander, isn't enough perfect? There is enough for you, Pachu. Maybe, maybe. Lovely. Okay, so again, there's pros and cons of living in the countryside. Usually there aren't enough facilities if you like the kind of facilities you get in London. There aren't many jobs. So there isn't much work and there aren't enough job opportunities and there is a lot of unemployment. So that's a good word to use, formal, academic, if you want to. Okay, so let's move on. So the advantages, again, we talked about when there's plenty, no shortage, no lack. What could you say about the countryside? Give me a few examples. JB Leven, there isn't enough pleasure place. Okay, I'm going to show you an example of what you could do for pleasure place. Sounds a bit strange. I'm going to show you an example which would maybe sound a little bit more natural. Okay, so JB, maybe you want to say this. There's plenty of space. And notice space, not place. What's the difference? Place, I guess, in the city, there are lots of places to go. But space is the idea, it's the opposite of crowded. There's plenty of space to run around, to go for walks. Island, there's plenty of fresh air. Exactly. Did I put that? I think I did. Oh, yes, Eileen, I'll come back. So the difference between space and place, be careful. Space is like measurable. You can measure the amount of space. Places, then countable, because there are lots of places to visit. Hassan saying there are plenty of meadows, Harvinder, plenty of trees. Right, so you've gone to the second one. Perfect. Hang on. Kavita. Kavita, just check singular or plural. So there is plenty of trees or there are plenty of trees. Deepika saying there are hazardous chemicals in the countryside. Yeah. Right, and then you've moved on to the second one. Okay, so when something is very low, not much, there's hardly any. Very, very little crime. Or simply there's not much crime. So simple synonym, and you're all putting these, I'm going to show them. There's hardly any pollution. And again, it's a bit more specific. If you talk about the country, you can't say there's no pollution. It's maybe more specific, more precise to say there's hardly any pollution. But Izada, there are hardly any restaurants, yes, which is a good thing or a bad thing? Depends, doesn't it? Hardly any noise, air or water pollution where you live. That's great, Saurab. There's hardly any street without a general store where you live. Good. Hardly any pollution, Alive. Hardly any pressure. Exactly. Katya, hardly any pollution. There's a lot of space to live, I would say, not accommodate. Accommodate is like, yeah, house or flat. And there are plenty of open spaces. Yes, open spaces is fine if it's plural. Yes, good. Okay, so we've come to the point. Oh, cars. Yeah, rural locations, there are hardly any cars or there aren't many cars. Kavita, there's hardly any pollution during Corona crisis. Exactly. Great example. Yes, there's hardly any. So again, all you can do is memorize, they go together. There's hardly any crime. There's hardly any crime. There aren't many cars. There are hardly any cars. Okay. Marina, yes. There are hardly any lucrative jobs. Good. There's a lot of parking space. Agustina, yes, you don't need to worry about where to park. There are plenty of organic products. Izada, yes. And there are not many paved roads. Great. Okay, that's great. All right, so finally, I thought I could use this as a good practice about have and don't have. So we've looked at it is and it isn't, there are and there aren't. Now I want to look at it has or it doesn't have. So when we think about rural communities, I'd like you please to look at this list. And you don't need to type anything, but I want you to think about rural communities they have, or the negative, they don't have, not haven't, they have or they don't have. Okay, so rural communities, again, more advanced word. So these kind of communities, they have a sense of community or they don't have a sense of community. So I'd like you to think about that by yourself. Rural communities have or don't have a sense of community, high-rise buildings, good infrastructure, a public transport system, congestion, overdevelopment. And in your mind, I want you to think, is it have or don't have? And say it to yourself. Okay, Saurabh, there's hardly any nuisance. Havinda, there are plenty of fresh vegetables. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so yes, here we go. They have, rural communities have a sense of community. Everybody knows each other. They have plenty of fresh air, but they don't have all of these things which the city has. And of course, this is where you're using your other linking words. Rural communities have fresh air, whereas urban communities are very polluted and congested. Yes, Havinder, they have a sense of community. Everyone knows each other. Yes. Great, Deepak, fine. Rural communities don't have high-rise buildings. Katya, you agree. Lovely. Have a sense of community. Great. Okay, so this is just to show the examiner you can use all of those. You can use the adjectives. It is polluted. There is a lot of pollution, or it has a lot of cars, for example. Okay, don't have high-rise buildings. Lovely. Oliver, they have manners. They have better manners. Yes, I would probably say it in plural. Have better manners. Yes, everybody is more polite. Everybody says hello to each other. Everybody is more friendly. I agree. Okay, great. Okay, and then adjectives. Rural communities are or aren't. And here we've got a list of adjectives. So you could think about rural communities are isolated or aren't isolated. And just notice the pronunciation. We talked yesterday about stressed, polluted, isolated. Notice the say it to yourself at home. Isolated, congested, polluted, overpopulated, and then peaceful and unspoilt. More supportive communities, definitely. Yes, definitely. Okay, great. So again, this is just to give you more for your speaking or writing. Rural communities are isolated, peaceful, unspoilt, no damage. But they aren't congested, polluted, or overpopulated. They are isolated, I think, Alive, because they are far away from cities and they are peaceful. They aren't congested. Lovely. Okay. Great. And they are peaceful, Prakash. All right. So finally, I would like you, oh, that's tomorrow. I would like you just now, just to finish, we've discussed and summed up the pros and cons of living in a rural or urban area. I wish I could do a poll on here, but maybe could you in the chat just put one word, either rural or urban? Which one would you prefer to live in? So I'll wait. I'll maybe somebody can count them for me as they come in. I'll post them. I'll wait. Harvinder saying rural communities, people have, but yes, that's true actually. They do have personal cars, they don't have public transport, which is why there's hardly any congestion. Exactly. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so where would you rather live? In a rural area or urban area? And just one word, and I'll see. Somebody can count for me. Intisha's urban. And maybe Intisha, you can think, you can type if you want why you chose urban. Rural for Hassan, urban Izada, urban for Kavita. Rural but not isolated, not too isolated. Yes. Yes. 50-50, Marina. You're sitting on the fence. That's what we say, sitting on the fence. Urban, JB, hoping to go to Canada, which is a beautiful rural place, isn't it? Lots of open spaces. Rural, Prakash. An outskirt area. Olivier, I don't think you can use it as an adjective. You'd have to say somewhere on the outskirts of the town. On the outskirts. Second class of inversion. Under no circumstances. Okay, Saurabh, yeah, no problem. No problem. Rural Mahdi, hardly any space for sport in the city. That's true. Rural, not used to living in rural communities. Alexa, I thought you lived in a rural community, or do you work? You go far away, don't you work there? In the country for you, Havinder. More education opportunities. Rural. Most people, I think the majority would prefer to live in a rural area. I think that is the conclusion. Rural in Canada, Katya, I hope so. Yes. That's why it's better than living in America, isn't it? Because it's more rural. I don't know. I've never been, so I don't know. Okay, lovely. So I'll say goodbye and thank you to everyone first, so you don't miss me. And then tomorrow we're gonna, well, somebody yesterday asked for multiple choice questions. I wasn't sure if it was reading or listening. So I put a question mark there. So do let me know. I think I will prepare reading multiple choice. But if you have any other request, then just let me know and I can change it. So I'll prepare reading multiple choice questions. If you prefer listening, maybe I can do that on Thursday. Okay. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Difficult lesson today. Hope you learnt a lot and keep your requests coming in. Listening, Prakash, was it you requested it yesterday? Okay, that's going to be interesting, doing listening. Bye, Izada. Bye, Andy. Bye, Matti. Lovely. See you, everybody. Bye. Bye-bye.